about home. They're married to real estate.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast for people who love real estate and want to become inspired and informed. Whether you are a newbie real estate agent looking to get tips and learn a thing or two, or maybe you are a savvy property owner who wants to get a jump on the market, this is the place for you. We discuss our passion for real estate and people. We bring together our personal experiences as well as our guests to learn from each other. You'll hear from experts in sales coaching, real estate law, mortgage lending, investing, and many local business owners on how to grow your business or your investment in real estate. I'm Mary Forrester.
I'm Mary McCauley.
And we are
Married to Real Estate.
Well, good morning and welcome to Married to Real Estate. Here we are, August 25th. Christmas is around the corner, right?
Oh my gosh, please. I can't even, I'm still waiting for summer to start.
Yes, I know.
It's been so fast.
And to our listeners outside of Massachusetts, it is raining again. We have the greenest lawn in the world, and I can't mow the whole thing all at once because it's got pockets of this and that. But anyway, you don't want to hear about that. You don't want to hear about that. You want to hear from Married to Real Estate. And good morning, Mary. How are you
Morning,
today?
Mary. I'm doing well. Yeah, busy.
Tell me.
Well, let's see. I have a listing that came on last week in Sudbury. I'm co-listing it with another agent in our office, Joanne Dong, and so she went off to Europe. So I got to handle everything, which has been wonderful. Great clients that are friends of hers. $9.99 is the price.
Right.
Yep, we're under contract. I had 3 days of open houses, so their buyers are still out there. Interest rates really aren't making a difference. If you need to buy, you need to buy.
Are you getting all cash offers, or are you seeing any of those still in that price point?
I didn't see any cash, 100% cash,
Right.
but at that price point, they have a lot of cash.
A lot of cash, yeah. A lot of cash, yeah.
Yeah, it's like 70% they're borrowing maybe. So
Yeah.
it's a good chunk of change.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So that market, Sudbury, is a nice market, really nice market to be in.
Such a beautiful area, and I really hadn't spent much time there. Joanne lives there, so she's really more the expert. But I did mail out to the neighbors. I invited them to the open house, and I had some come, and it was really cute because they were like, "No, I don't feel awkward coming to the open house," and I was like, "That's what we want.
Yeah.
Come in, come see."
in.
So it was really nice, and they got to chat up some of the prospective buyers about the neighborhood.
Lovely.
Which was terrific, and they love it. So it was just a really, really nice, fun experience, and quick. So we're signing P&S today. We had the inspection and the appraisal yesterday.
Wow.
Signing P&S today, and they want to close early. They're a reload couple that bought it, and my people already moved out.
Terrific.
So yeah, I think it's just the plants are aligning, which doesn't happen. A unicorn almost.
Awesome.
And what about you, Mary? What's going on in your world?
Wonderful summer so far. I have made a number of referrals. I have a fun one in Watertown, and where I was raised. I stayed there till I was 18 and went off to college. But it's interesting. It's really interesting to kind of go back to your town and see. Let's have a couple others working through again, first-time home buyers is a struggle. It's really a struggle, and I'm having a great time referring business to lenders and friends and it's a good life being, quote, retired, and I love it.
And you were on vacation not that long ago.
I was on the way up to Maine,
Yeah.
and that was a trip. That was a real fun trip. That was really, really nice. So life is good, and we're back to dancing. So health is good.
Oh,
back is dancing tomorrow, all day dancing event. So, and we are thrilled to have Walter Miska here today. And I only got to meet Walter through Rotary, Westford Rotary.
Ah.
And as soon as I met you, Walter, I thought, you've broken the mold. Walter's an engineer who threw away the pocket protector. I don't know if people understand that. We're getting to a generation, maybe.
My father had a pocket protector.
And decided to dabble into business, and you have not looked back since.
That's
true.
Welcome, Walter.
Yeah, welcome.
It
Thank you.
is.
Thank you for having me today. My first experience in a podcast setting, so this is unique and interesting for me. So,
well, you're a pro already.
You're already
so
pro.
There you go. You've learned everything there is to know.
And all of our guests have said afterwards, "This was not so bad."
Yeah.
And they're now a veteran, And they can now say to somebody, I just did a podcast, my first podcast. So
An award-winning, a national award-winning podcast.
We are.
I always think driving to something like this, like in an hour, it's going to be over. Whatever happens, right? So we'll
It's
see.
like going to the gynecologist. Kind of like,
Hopefully it's not.
Downhill fast.
as we told you, we can edit things out.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyway,
goodness.
Walter, what astounded me about you was when you decided to leave the engineering world is your first business.
Yeah.
So please tell Mary, because
All
she
right.
doesn't know.
Yes.
So here's a little bit of the short story of who is Walter, I suppose, right? So grew up here in Massachusetts, right? I have went to school at WPI, have a degree in civil engineering, a master's degree in environmental engineering, professional engineer's license. In fact, my whole family's engineers, right? My wife is an electrical engineer that's been at the same company now for over 30 years.
Oh, wow.
I have a 24-year-old son that's a mechanical engineer working with my wife now at the same company, and a daughter that just graduated with a chemical engineering degree who is on her way to a master's degree in fire protection engineering.
Wow.
So that was definitely my background, and that's what I did for the first 12 years or so of my career. For whatever reason, I found myself in a cube watching a clock. You know, it just didn't really go in the path that I thought I might go, and decided, as you know, short version is I opened a business, right? So I opened a franchise that was called Embroid Me. We did embroidery,
I remember
screen printing,
seeing it.
promotional items, right, in
Chelmsford.
Chelmsford. That's right.
Right.
Very good. So I opened that, ran it for 8 years, grew it to a nice little company. It's not like it was my heart's desire to be an embroiderer the rest of my career.
Indeed.
In fact, you know, it is funny. When I first saw the name embroidery, I'm thinking, you know, some old lady with a needle. in her
Right,
hand.
right,
Like, that's not
right.
me. But you start to realize what
it's
the business
machines
is,
and-
promotional
right,
items and
okay,
machines. Right,
yeah.
sure. So, you know, ran that business for 8 years, and built a nice little asset, which I sold like a real estate, right?
Yeah,
Same idea.
exactly.
Right. Built some equity, and
That's
there you
right.
go.
And paid for the 2 kids to go to college.
All right.
Paid for my next franchise, which was the craft beer cellar here
Oh,
in
yeah.
Westford.
Okay,
Right. So I
great.
opened that business. 2013, I think, when craft beer was just becoming
Okay,
trendy.
so yeah.
Right.
You know,
Perfect
there were very
timing.
few places that had a lot of craft beer, and we opened a store with 1,000 craft beers, and you could mix and match, and it was great. Of course, 4 or 5 years later, everybody and their brother's a craft beer expert, right? So,
Right.
you know, it's again, buy low, sell high kind of thing. And I had a partner. We decided it was time to, you know, capitalize on that. So there are some great new owners in there that have done a great job expanding craft beer cellar in Westford. And but it was time for us to move on, and we sold that business. I opened an escape room.
I had my daughter's birthday at that escape room.
My escape room?
I think so, right? Is it
Right
was
next
it,
to Kimball's?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Upstairs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool. I had no idea. So, so that was my next business, right? So I went out, I opened that escape room.
It was really fun.
Thank you. We did great. You know, we opened a couple of games. We built out the command center, the lobby, the whole thing. The crazy thing, though, was within 2 weeks of opening, someone came in and asked to buy it from me.
Wow.
Who gets that, right? So,
Great.
and it wasn't immediately, let's do it. We negotiated for a couple of months and eventually made the deal. So sold that business and did that again in the escape room industry. But little did I know, of course, that we're going to run into COVID, right?
Right.
And nobody wants to get locked in a small room with people you don't know anymore, right?
Timing is everything.
So obviously that didn't bode well for that business in the long run once that happened. But again, it worked out well for me. I had moved on. I went to work for a large multi-brand franchising company as their vice president here in New England, and now am the president of a new franchising company that franchises culinary training and staffing businesses. So
Okay.
that kind of
So why
summarizes a lot of that.
franchises? I mean, you seem to have this sort of draw to it, and a bit of a Midas touch, it sounds like.
A bit of a Midas touch.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do think that some of it's. I kind of, you know, I feel like, okay, I can. Sometimes I get a little ego trip, right?
Go for it.
You know?
Go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
We're friends here.
And I
it.
feel like, you know, I'm a pretty sharp guy. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
I could do most things, but I just hadn't been experienced in the world of running a business. I went to engineering school, right, which is a different skill set. So joining a franchise was a way to get that proven program and get coaching and a team, and not just be out there on my own. So that was why I started that way.
Really
and
smart.
it also, adds to the resale value, to be honest. So it was able to resell a couple of franchises. The escape room I did on my own, but then I've been working for franchising companies, and now I love being on the other side, being able to help.
Client. Are you the client in that case? A franchise agency helps you sell your franchise?
Well, no, I actually work for what's called the franchisor. So I work for the company that it's actually a local company. It's called Snap Chef, and it is been in business in New England for 20 years. Yeah. They have offices in Boston, Worcester, Springfield, Providence, right? And so it's something that had been replicated within the corporate unit, and now they've hired me to help expand it through franchising around the country. And we've recently started that process. We opened one that is off to a great start in New Jersey. We have one open in Ohio, and so we're starting to reach out and help other people into that business. So we really are a workforce development company, not to be a sales pitch for that, but that's what we do.
Do it.
Sales pitch.
You're very welcome to do that. But I'd like to explore that concept. You said you were an engineer. I'm married to an engineer, so I think I'm familiar with kind of the engineering approach to the world. But then you said you benefited from what the franchise had to offer. Is that right? So
sure.
They have a proven way of taking this model, going into, let's say, a certain geographic area, applying all those pieces as efficiently as you can, and then you're a success.
That's the idea. Yeah. It should be the case. There's always people that don't follow the system. That's kind of the big thing with a franchise, right? You're paying for a system. That's what you're jumping into. And if you think you're going to know better than the people that have been doing it and disregard the program that they've put in place, those are the ones that tend to struggle, right? So, a lot of times it is the person that's willing to jump into their model. Now, there's always room for
creativity
and
right.
giving it your own flavor, right? It has to work for you as an individual.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not unlike real estate in the sense that we have a lot of systems and programs that are proven, but yet we want to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And the ones that don't have the systems don't do as well.
Absolutely.
It's harder to do business. The other thing that struck me is that, most real estate agents aren't business people. They don't realize that if you're a real estate agent, you're now a business owner.
Absolutely.
And that's a hard
really
one
true.
to get your head around.
It's
Sure.
true. And I was salaried my whole life. That paycheck came every other week, no matter what. And so suddenly at 58, no paycheck.
Sure.
And all the mysteries around being in a recession, 2009, it wasn't a mystery, it was for real. But how to build a business given whatever the circumstances are. Mm-hmm. I had a personal trainer who tried to buy an Orange Theory franchise. She was rejected. She had cash, everything.
Really?
Yeah, she had cash. They were ready to do it. And I think they made a decision about who she was.
Yeah.
And
you got to make sure that the person that's buying the franchise fits into your system and will follow the system. And yeah, absolutely.
Or has some experience, maybe some business experience?
Sometimes, although a lot of times that's part of the magic of a franchise, is that they are providing you with that piece of it. I had never looked at an embroidery machine before I bought that business, right? I didn't even know how to run a sewing machine. I know how they work, but now I could take apart a whole industrial machine, put it all back together.
I'm going to call you. Yes.
Hear that, ladies and gentlemen out there?
Walter at Miska.
Yeah.
But why did you select that, Embroidery Me?
Okay. So why did I select that? It started, you want a little more backstory, I can tell you. It started, the idea, concept, when I was visiting my mother, who was living on Amelia Island in northern Florida. And we went, this was probably 2003, 2004, we went to a Cold Stone Creamery. It was the first time I'd ever been to a Cold Stone. I know they're around here now, but at the time, not so much. And we left that place thinking, man, I spent way too much money on that ice cream. I had a great time, and I definitely go back. Why couldn't I do this? Right? So I come home, and I start evaluating Cold Stone Creamery. Quickly realize it's not really the right fit for me, looking at competitors, looked at other ice cream places, but no. I'm an engineer. I put everything into spreadsheets. I couldn't figure out for the life of me how they make money. Right? And I knew I was pulling numbers out of the air. I'm like, I don't know. I'll need this for staff. I'll need this for rent. I'll need this for goods, whatever. I get to the bottom. I'm like, I don't see anybody who makes money doing this stuff. And I looked at, and now I'm driving around towns looking at all these small businesses going, that can't work. No chance that works. I'm looking at these different things. And this was the first business that I put everything together in a spreadsheet. And at the end of the day, I was like, wow, that might work.
Terrific.
And so that's kind of where it all came from.
Oh, terrific. That's really good. And I keep asking my husband he has an MBA as well as, now he has a PhD in strategic, kind of planning, strategic engineering, I guess is what it's called. And you can't give somebody an entrepreneurial spirit. You really can't.
No.
So that's what I marveled when I met you and realized that you were a successful engineer, and it's in your genes, obviously, and you've passed those on to become a business person. That's awesome.
It was never my intent. I always expected I would be more like where my wife is, 30 years, climbing the corporate ladder in a big engineering world, and it just didn't work for me. And now everywhere I look, I see business opportunities, and my wife's always like rolling her eyes like, no, don't give them another idea. But, I keep myself busy with those smaller hobby type things too.
Yes. So tell us about those hobby type things. Mayor, this is amazing and has kind of a real estate feel to it as well.
Can't wait to hear
Go ahead.
Okay.
Tell us.
So here's the other thing that I continue to do now, and this goes back to my time with the escape room company, right? So if everybody knows what an escape room is,
Would
it's
you
kind
describe
of
it?
very quickly.
I've never been to one. Mm-hmm.
It's something of it's an entertainment venue, right? Where you have, generally in most escape rooms, a room or multiple rooms that you are, I'm going to say air quote, locked in, right? In most cases, you're actually not locked in. The fire department doesn't like that too much, but so you're locked in a room that's a themed room with some sort of thing. It could be ancient Egypt, it could be a space station, it could be cowboys, whatever, right? Any type of fictional theme, and you're given a storyline, and you, generally speaking, have an hour to solve the puzzles that are hidden throughout the room in order to unlock your door and escape before whatever the thematically appropriate disaster
is. And you do it as a team,
is.
so teamwork is really important, and sort of personalities come into play. It's really interesting from that perspective too.
100%. Yeah. In fact, a lot of times companies use it as a team building type of activity. And it's all, I started doing it just with friends and families. And of course, that's where my ego comes back in. I'd go in to play a game and I'd be like, that was cool, but I could do better, And then next thing you know, I've got my engineering hat back on. I'm in my basement learning how to wire props and make the magic happen. Right, in an escape room. So that was kind of a really fun project for me. And so, and really what I love about it is the puzzle building, the puzzle solving, right? So even though I've moved on from that business, I have not moved on from puzzle solving and puzzle building as a hobby. So I've done a couple of things. One, the short, easy one is I wrote a book that is called Escape Passages, and it's just self-published on Amazon. You can buy it there. Another selfless plug, but
go for it.
That is, and again, these are hobbies. These are not things I ever expect to be any kind of real source of income, but it is an escape room in a book, if you will. Oh. So there's a leader that kind of runs you through these 3 different scenarios that are in that book, and you could play sitting around a kitchen table or on a car ride or something like that.
Sounds fun. I didn't even know. Yeah, I might check that out.
That was one project, but the more interesting and even more real estate-like project that Mary brought up is an app that I recently launched this year, and it's called Hunt Town. Okay, so understanding what an escape room is, if you think about that, you're basically playing a puzzle game within the bounds of a room. Now, of course, we're going through COVID, and I'm sitting out in my backyard thinking nobody's doing this anymore because we're not locking ourselves in small rooms. What if the bounds were the town boundaries instead of the room boundaries? So now your escape room is an escape town, right? So, and I have built one for Westford. So
just try to get out of Westford, people.
So, and again, it's obviously not escaping, right? It's what's really in the industry, a puzzle hunt, right? Yeah. So it's like a scavenger hunt where you're going all around. Ooh, sorry. There you go. Going all around town, solving puzzles that lead to the next spot in town you need to go. So the idea being that it's you're learning about some of the history in town, you're seeing some unique places in town, and I love going around these various towns and learning about them myself and finding things. I'll go you have to walk around the town, right? Mm-hmm. That's the thing. Everybody drives everywhere. Everybody's in a rush to get somewhere.
True.
You go right past really interesting things all the time without ever having, I'll see a sign that says historic monument that way. And you're like, who's ever gone down that road? Like
Right, yeah.
I'm going to go down there and see what's down there. And now in the game, I'll direct people there. So, and I like, again, it's the same kind of theme like you do with a story, right? So there's a reason you're there hunting through the town, looking for lost treasure or disarming a bomb or whatever it happens to be. And, I think about the game kind of in a Dan Brown-like setting, right?
Yes.
Where you're taking real history, real historical places, but totally mixing it up in a really fake story, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so again, you get on your app, you scan things around, you solve puzzles, you lead yourself around town. And then the one other aspect of this, so I have built and released 6 of them.
Yep.
That's
at this
incredible.
point, which includes Westford and Ayr, which is the town that I live in. We also have Nashua, Springfield, Eastham out on the Cape, and Littleton, New Hampshire. So,
but it's good. You're spread around.
Yeah, it's a little bit of spread around. And so the other thing I'll mention, that when we first release one of these hunts for the first time, there is a cash prize for the first person to complete the hunt. And that person has to solve the puzzles, which I will add are more challenging than a typical escape room because there's no time limit. You're out there playing at any time.
And they're not related to the town. They're just puzzles, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Having knowledge of the town is no advantage.
Right.
And even having knowledge of where you're going is really no advantage because you need to solve the puzzle to get to the next step. So it really is about puzzle solving. And the first person to solve it wins a cash prize. But there are no hints available for that person, right? So if you go out right now, I would tell you 5 of the 6 have been solved. Yeah. Right. So Westford has been solved. That's great because now you can go on the app and guess what? Now there's a hint tool available within the app. So you can actually play the entire Westford hunt in 3 hours by using hints when you get stuck. The one that has not been solved yet is the Nashua, New Hampshire hunt. So that one is still available for a prize.
Yeah. I moved to Nashua a year ago. So.
There you go. So that hunt, the only thing, the thing to be aware of when you go to play that, the cash prize is available, but there are no hints. So you could very well get stuck early on and not know where to go next. But as I said, 5 of the 6 have been solved, usually by people who are gamers and like the game. So I think they've spoken enough about that.
No, I love that. I think that's incredible.
So when we first moved to Westford, when we drove up Depot or Maine or wherever it is, and there's a knight, a bronze knight, the size of a human, on the side of the road. What the heck,
Exactly.
Right. And what a bizarre thing.
Right, the Westford Knight. And that is where we start the hunt in Westford. So that is stop number 1 because it is one of those really odd, unique things that, if you're in and live in Westford, you probably know about the Knight. But most people don't. I mean, I was a member of the Westford Rotary Club here and had businesses in Westford for years before I ever knew that was a thing, right? And then so in any case, I found it fascinating. And so basically what you're doing in the Westford hunt, since that's where we sit right now, is you are hunting for the lost Templar treasure, right?
Of course.
Which of course is hidden here in Westford, of course, right? Because they brought it with them from Scotland when whatever, you can read the story, but that's the idea. So it'll lead you all around Westford. From one place to another, you'll see different monuments and different parks and different things around the town center.
How long does it take you to plan one of these hunts for a town?
Way too long. This is definitely, again, just something I do because I love it and my wife loves it. And it gives us a thing. Good. When we go, we're empty nesters now, right? And we've got a free weekend. What do we want to do? We love this. We'll go to a town and just walk the streets and find weird things and research online. There are all kinds of websites with weird things in such and such a town.
So true.
Right.
Yep.
And pull it together. And then usually we go home and, I let my wife organize it and work on the story. I'm generally the puzzle builder.
I wondered if you were the whole package with the whole creativity thing too, or you were.
Well, in some cases, yes. Okay. My wife's been getting more involved because she is having fun with it, and it is something that we can do together. But what I found, this is my engineering mind again, is that I can do one or the other in a day. I can sit down and I can work on story and be creative and try to create the story from step to step. or I can sit down and I can work on puzzles and work on the puzzle that you need to solve at each step. But to do them in the same day together, my mind just does not work like that.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Interesting. It does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, when you have engineers as clients, Mary, you have to deal with them very specifically.
It's true.
You have to be very specific.
I've had that.
Yes, and it's fascinating because in D.C., Maryland, Virginia, where I started, gosh, so many engineers, so many, and it was a blessing to have been married to Carl. And other realtors are like, well, how do I deal with this?
Yeah.
It's fascinating mindset.
What it comes to me, I would say, is I always want to know why.
The data.
It doesn't. Yeah, just tell me why something is the way it is, and I can usually buy into it. But when you just tell me to take it for as it is, I'm like,
awesome.
I need to know why.
So the thing that you two have in common, Mary and Walter. Walter, can I get you some water or something?
No, I'm fine.
You okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Is your dedication to make a difference, and particularly around people and organizations. And I met Walter in the Rotary, and what I found in Rotary is there are a number of people in Rotary who are avid Rotarians from the perspective of, I want to make a difference. I want to touch people.
Yeah.
Some people want to touch people just right now, give them a meal, and other people want to change the whole acceptance of a certain race or group in a town. And what I found is you're in the latter category, definitely.
For sure.
And Mary is a member and a leader in so many organizations that make a difference. Actually, she's one of the founding leaders of 100 Women of Greater
Right. You guys won the last award.
And so I wanted to explore with both of you really is, what's the inside message that I can make a difference with people?
Oh, that's not an easy question. I don't know if I've ever really thought about it personally. I just, I want to help. I do want to make a difference. And I tend to think on a big scale, like why be little about it? Let's be really big.
Yeah. So you were very involved in Live for Live.
Yep.
In all its formative years, you were a big player in Live for Live.
Well, in the last few years, I was, and I'm still a supporter, and I'm doing a little bit for the ride run that they have coming up next month. And it's been 13 years, and that's crazy. WestfordCAT, I'm a huge supporter. I always have been ever since it came on my radar. There are people that have lived in Westford 30 years, and they didn't even know where WestfordCAT was or what they did. And so, it really was when they built the podcast room that things really kind of took off. And I wanted to join the board. I want to see it survive. I want to see, because with streaming, it's hard because they get some revenue from the town with the cable companies, and if everybody's streaming, then that's a worry.
And it's a loss.
Yes, it's a loss.
It's a loss to the community.
Funds. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you adjust for that?
Yeah.
And then the 100 Women. Would you explain to the audience about 100 Women and how you got into 100 Women?
So 100 Women is a giving circle, I guess I would call it. But the idea is that you try to get 100 women to give $100 every quarter, and then you nominate as a member different charities, and then once a quarter we get together, we vote on 3 that are randomly picked, and we can give them $10,000. So we've given away over $80,000. In January, I think it'll be 2 years, our first meeting. And we have over 150 members. And so what we do now is we, above the $10,000, then the runners up split whatever extra money. So nobody goes home without any funds. And then they get to be put back in for the big prize again in a year. And then we were lucky enough through the organization of 100 Women Alliance. They're national. I don't know if they're international, but they're definitely national. We were given the opportunity to apply for a grant for an extra $5,000. So the winner of our award gets $15,000.
Yes, and we did too.
Yes, the Rotary did.
Rotary did. Thank you.
I know. Well, you gave the speech and it was moving.
Yeah.
And you'll be back September 12th.
Yeah, we'll be back because with 3 organizations.
Yeah.
And then we know so many people who in our Rotary who are going to be nominated, who have been nominated for the next meeting.
Yep.
Yes, I did hear something
Food
about
Bank,
that. Yeah.
Westford Remembers, and the third group I didn't know. It was some kind of some kind of architectural or fittings or something like that.
I didn't know off the top of my head, I have to put out the Facebook post today about it. So, but yes. So Andrea Imbriaco, she was my old neighbor in Westford, and she retired from teaching. She was like a reading teacher. She actually had one of my sons in the schools, and so she reached out to me because she had seen the Westford Neighbors magazine that I had been on, and so she was like, that she'd be good, because I do a lot of charity stuff, veterans. I've done some dinners. I do a Kentucky Derby party that I haven't done since COVID for food insecurity for Gaining Ground and Concord. And so, I got together with her. I said yes, because I have a trouble saying no.
And we benefited. And so when we did 100 Women, so many of our Rotarians were members as well. Yeah. So it was a really interesting kind of dynamic. And as a speaker, I had no idea. I mean, there were two very touching presentations.
It always is. We're always like tears in our eyes. Yeah.
And I was more up here, trying to be touching, but many years of public speaking, I had that advantage.
You did a
for sure.
Fantastic job.
Yeah. And so these other two people who presented, they just, one of them just tore my heart apart. But
yeah, and they'll go back in and they'll get, they got a little bit of an award, but they'll get
more. They'll go back in like we did.
Yeah.
Rotary went back.
Yeah.
I just love the way that group can be so impactful with each donation, right? I mean, and that's one of the big differences that I like in what we're trying to bring into Rotary a little bit more. And we've done it in the past, and it's kind of gotten away from it, the last few years. But it's very easy for us to go around and say, oh, here's $100 for this, here's $300 for that. But to really make a difference in somebody's life, $300 isn't going to do it, right? So I love the impactful nature of what you're doing.
Yeah, go big.
Go big.
It's definitely.
And Walter's you've been a really helpful for me to see the difference, because my experience with Rotary is pretty limited. But when you were president at one time, and now you're our treasurer, and I'm so grateful you're our treasurer now, and so tell us a little bit how you view that world about how we can actually be big and touch big.
Yeah, it is a challenge, right? And so we've done some fairly sizable projects with our club. We've built water supply systems in Central America, things like that. But most of what we do is things that are a little more local to Westford, whether it's packing meals for the food bank or things a little bit more like that, helping with the Department of Children and Families in Chelmsford and stocking their room. And that's all. Those are some wonderful projects that I'm really proud to be part of, and I get a lot of satisfaction out of managing. But, Rotary has 7 avenues of service, right? And it's a group that it's an enormous number of people, over 1 million Rotarians all over the world in every part of the planet. And there's opportunity there to be so much more impactful in a project that we do. And, the areas are things like women and children's health or disease prevention, or in the environment is one that they've added fairly recently. The one that always strikes me is the peace initiatives, right? I just feel like, what can we do? The world struggles with people that don't understand each other, right? And what can we do to reduce conflict between larger groups? And we have the people and the manpower to do it. And I mean, there are certain organizations we work with and such, but I feel like there's a bigger project for our club coming in that row. I just haven't quite got it. I see myself in retirement spending a lot more time in this. But
so this is a puzzle you haven't figured out yet.
Yeah, there's a lot. I have a lot on my plate, but yeah, it's good.
It's really good.
That is impressive.
And I, too, have been expanded by this whole discussion. We had a presentation yesterday by Rashmi Kumar, whom we should visit with. Do you know Rashmi?
Yeah. No, I don't, but I saw your post about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Rashmi is a prominent English teacher at Westford Academy, which is for everybody who doesn't know Westford very well. It's the public high school for Westford, this town of Westford. And she came over as a professor and from New Delhi, and she's an English teacher at this school. And she has started a South Asian Student Association. Well, as I shared at the meeting yesterday, many of my clients in Northern Virginia were from the World Bank and were Pakistani.
Oh.
And this is a very, these are fresh wounds. These are really, really fresh wounds. And some of my clients were Punjabi, and it was really amazing. And I got a chance to go to Pakistan for a wedding. So how do you have a South Asian student association? She said 8 countries, right? Bangladesh, I'm sure, Nepal, and how do you have them kind of represented at a high school that's predominantly white, and what their issues are? She was awesome. She was just awesome. So she was able to kind of say, this is a delicate issue. This is a delicate issue, and we try to handle it head on. But some kids here have no awareness of that war that was 60 years ago. And up to longer, but supposedly ended 60 years ago. So she was really wonderful.
Oh.
And Friends Forever, is that another group you got involved with?
It's a group that we've been involved with. I know some of the members in our club more so, but it is a wonderful organization that brings children, teenagers, really, high school students from conflicted areas of the world. So think like in Northern Ireland, they'll bring children that are Catholics and Protestants, and maybe a handful of each, and bring them to the United States to spend a couple of weeks together touring the U.S. and starting to realize that they're not all that different, right?
Right.
And just because they have a little bit of a different religious belief or were brought up differently, they don't need to hate each other. The same thing in the Middle East, where
Right. Why does that have to be the number one thing the difference is? Why can't you start with the similarities and then have the differences at the bottom of the end? And
hopefully that starts to spread and people start to realize, okay, we're all really the same at the end of the day, right? We can get along. So I love that stuff.
So we're putting some energy. I feel like this particular group that we're connected through, we're putting some energy. I can just feel this energy kind of heading there to doing, some focus in that area. At the same time, feeding people, at the same time helping Department of Children and Families,
Absolutely.
which, is so, so important. And then the other thing that, Mary, for more local consideration is this group has been active with the Westford Police Department, and there's a community outreach or engagement component of that. This police department is really trying to be in the community, and so we have a person in our Rotary who Patty Mason, who has a lot of interest and a lot of time in the town, and she's been kind of our focal point there. So it's a wonderful, wonderful world that we're living in. It's not. I read the news in the morning and I think,
yeah, but you can make a difference locally. Start locally. Why not? And let it spread from there.
Yeah. So, Walter, we have picked some of your brain. I have a feeling that there's about 90% more we haven't even touched.
Barely touched on it.
And your heart. We've touched your heart, too, as well. Yeah, any thoughts, any kind of reactions or questions for us?
Yeah, I have one question. How do you get your app? What is that? Where do you find it? How do you do that? It sounds so fun.
Yeah, the easiest thing to do is go to our website, which is simply hunttownapp.com.
Love it.
Right. And then at hunttownapp.com, you can click on the links to the Google Play Store or the App Store or whatever.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. And we'll get your book, too.
Right.
Sure.
On Amazon.
Mary was the winner of our...
the ball drop.
The ball drop.
Oh,
our golf ball. She was the primary winner. Did you know that?
I did not, so congratulations.
We didn't get her in. We didn't get her in to do the 25-minute speech that she was supposed to give to pay for that, right? I'm teasing, of course. But Mary, we're going to do a cornhole tournament and a ball drop.
All right.
So you have lots of opportunities.
Yeah, everyone should get out there.
Walter, thank you so very much for your time, and thank you for everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. My first podcast in the books.
Yeah, not as scary,
We
right?
told you.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Dick.